I think through life's experiences, a lot of times we think, as long as I can manage, then I'm doing good. Not realizing that we can actually empower ourselves by being balanced. You can be more empowered being balanced than you can managing.
All right, welcome to the Healing Reset. I'm Jess, hanging out with Dr. Jennifer Burns today. She's not only a doctor in naturopathic medicine, she's also a certified health coach, a brain health coach, nutrition coach, and a level 4 Reiki master. She's done her work, you guys, and continues to learn. We are going to continue the conversation on your body, and your body as a system, not just a set of symptoms. Today, we're going to explore one of my favorite topics, that is the thyroid. I myself live with Hashimoto's and am constantly looking on how to heal and how to push myself to put this diagnosis in the past. With that being said, Dr. Burns, thank you so much for being here with us today. Take a quick minute and just share with us your background. Why naturopathic medicine?
Oh, wow. So quite a few years ago, my great-grandmother was on 15 different medications. 5 of them were for what she was needing. The other 10 were for the side effects. And when we were, my dad and I were there at the assisted living facility, she didn't recognize me. And except for like maybe the last 5-10 minutes that we were there, it's like the lights finally came on and she recognized me. And on the drive home, my dad was just like, you do know that wasn't her, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And so because of that, I'm like, there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way to live besides like having medications and then having other medications for the side effects, from what was supposed to happen. So yeah, that's how I got into naturopathic medicine.
Well, and I think people can relate to that because how often do you go on a drug and then you're prescribed something else because you either get digestive upset or whatever the repercussions are of one drug that is healing your symptoms, quote unquote, healing your symptoms, you're going to need something else in place to address what that drug brings on. It's super common.
Yeah, definitely. And because of that, now there is a time and place, I believe, for medications. And there's also a time and place for natural healing. And sometimes you have to have both in order for someone to be at optimal health. But here again, it's per individual. That's the nice thing I like about naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, alternative medicine, however you want to call it, is that we base it based upon each person, not as far as like putting everyone in a group.
I love that. Oftentimes I think medicine can get politicized, right? It's like you're either all in this camp or you're all in this camp and you can't live in both. But we're individuals with unique fingerprints. So how do you use everything to that individual's advantage?
A lot of study.
Hence your 18 different master level courses. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because it's like for everyone, it's like there's, our body works off of not only chemical impulses, there's electrical impulses, there's, the spiritual side of things. There's, and if you have to bring it all together in order to truly be balanced, to truly feel, like that you're, I don't know, want to say, like normal, but, normal for that person.
Yeah.
Because being normal is different for everyone.
Yeah.
On what it is. So, an 80-year-old doesn't exactly want to act like a 20-year-old, but they want to feel better where they're at the stage that they're at. So, yeah, it's different. Everyone's journey is so different and so unique.
Which makes it hard and also like magical to treat people, I'm sure, because you can't use one size fits all medicine.
Yep, exactly. The body is way too complex to be a one size fits all. And sometimes it's really frustrating because, it's like we think we got it. And then after that, the body decides, nope, that's not it. And it's just like, oi.
Back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board. Which way do we need to go now? How do we think outside the box?
So I don't want to talk about that complexity. And I'm just going to use my own journey here. I had a normal TSH and everyone out there, that's a very common lab that's drawn to represent thyroid health. But I had this feeling something else was going on. So I dug a little deeper, found a functional medicine doctor, got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. But it makes me wonder the complexity of it. How many people out there are living with thyroid dyshealth, an unhealthy thyroid, and don't know because they only get their TSH drawn?
It's actually more common than what we think. There are like a bunch of Facebook groups or social media, other, like social media groups and stuff like that of just Hashimoto's in and of itself. And in that, every single one of them have been talking about, all they did was just test my TSH. Nothing else was tested. Or it was just TSH and free T3 and free T4. And then next thing you know, it's like when they finally find, like the right, physician to go to, we're, looking at antibodies, it's like, there's two different types. There's, TPO, which is an antibody one, and then you have thyroid globulin antibodies. So it's just kind of like, wants to be able to dig deeper and find out what's going on. And then from there, everyone who has the antibody test done, there's varying degrees of where people are at as far as those antibody counts. For some people, it's just low. It could be something going on as far as like a food that may be causing all this inflammation. For other people, it goes off the charts to where the labs are just like, well, it's greater than the number, than our highest number that we can do. And so, it varies so widely, even, like between mild to very severe symptoms of Hashimoto's.
Now, tell me this. In conventional medicine, if it is known that the predictor of thyroid health is not just in the TSH, why in the world are we not exploring more labs as a mainstream, like this is what we do when you go for your yearly physical? Why are they still just using that as the predictor?
A lot of times it sometimes goes down to on how they were taught. So so it's like, so this is the only way to do it. And so they go that way because that's how they were taught. Some of them want to know more, want to go deeper into it. And so then they explore free T3, free T4, or they refer out to endocrinologists. They're just like, well, I'm only like a family practitioner. This is what I know. So I'm going to send you off to an expert. But, sometimes those experts, will test further, and sometimes they don't either. So sometimes I say, honestly, I think all of us in the medical field are we came into this medical field to be able to help people. But I think sometimes we are blocked up against limitations. It could be from our training. It could be from because the insurance company is dictating what can be done, like what labs that they'll cover, or, like where exactly their expertise, lie in. So, family practice, you basically have to be kind of like be an expert in multiple things where, so then they will go ahead and they'll refer and they specialize. But even in specializing here again, sometimes it comes down to training.
Yeah. So if there's someone out there listening and their TSH is normal within the limitations, but they're tired or they're struggling with depression and they've been put on an antidepressant, there's multiple different directions that could go, but is that someone you would say, hey, do more labs?
Yeah. I say do more labs, have your doctor dig deeper, find out there's something really going on with your thyroid. Maybe there's some foods that you're not supposed to be eating that could be causing that inflammatory response. And then sometimes there's family history and people don't know. I have a lot of patients who were adopted and I'm just like, oh, do you know your family history? And they're like, no. And so, so sometimes it can be genetically inherited. And then, that's when I kind of like tease some of my patients. I'm like, those darn family genes. But if you really don't know them, how are you going to know unless you actually test for it?
Yeah. Yeah. What about, is gluten something you automatically advise Hashimoto's patients to take out of their diet?
Yes, we found that, the body's already in an inflamed state. So doing some simple things like taking out gluten or dairy Even cabbage can bring, if you're eating it too much, can bring thyroid function down. So those are some of the ones that we have. We even say sugar. Sugar can even bring thyroid function down. And some people with unexplained high cholesterol, here again, it could be that thyroid's off, because thyroid and cholesterol actually feed off each other. So if the thyroid isn't working, sometimes your cholesterol level can go high. So same thing with your immune system. Thyroid is very active and entwined with your immune system, and it's also entwined with your hormones. So sometimes if we can get the thyroid level right, we can actually help balance out, like your immune system, and sometimes balance out your hormones.
Yeah, the word balance, right? We want to bring the body back into balance and help the body become this automated machine that we know it can be, because it is designed to heal.
Yeah.
Now, you guys, just for reference, when I emailed Dr. Burns and said, hey, what do you want to talk about? We have a podcast coming up. She gave me 2 words, Hashimoto's, Ozone, which I loved because that just shows there's confidence and a passion behind it. But what I'm realizing is we haven't yet differentiated Hashimoto's from hyper or hypothyroidism. So can you just give us what is Hashimoto's compared to what you hear about when you're very tired or you're very energized with hypo or hyper?
Yeah, so hypothyroid is where your TSH is high. That's produced from the brain. But the thyroid itself making free T3 and free T4, it's not enough. And so it's basically underactive. And so that's what hypo is. And that means that your body's not attacking cells. Hyper is when you have too much T3 and T4, but not enough TSH. So we got to bring some way to bring it down, to have that regulated. So for people who are fatigued, have hair loss, intolerance to cold, have problems losing weight, that could be hypothyroid. And if you can't gain weight and you are, just feeling you can't concentrate, and you've got like all this energy, can't sleep and stuff like that, it could possibly be hyperthyroid. So, but, both of them still have, like their issues with it. And most of the time with hyper, if some people actually have hyper and hypo at the same time. So, well, with that now, where does Hashimoto's fall into this?
Yeah.
This is basically, it goes in more with hypothyroid or low acting thyroid. But what the body's doing is that it's actually attacking your thyroid. So why does the body do that? We don't know. I mean, come on, you were born with your thyroid. So why would all of a sudden your body think, why would your immune system think, oh, this is the enemy, I have to attack it? Here again, it could be from stressors in life. It could be from a lot of the foods that we have. The food that we have now, it has a whole bunch of chemicals in it, which our body wasn't meant to absorb. Like 15 years ago, you would get bread, and if you did not eat that bread fairly quickly, it went moldy. Now you get bread on the shelf, and because it has more chemicals in it, it can sit in your kitchen for like 2-3 weeks before it starts getting moldy. So, a lot of it could be due to, a genetically altered food, adding more chemicals in, more processed foods can even be causing a lot of that.
Yeah, I was cracking up. I was watching something on the internet the other day, and it was fast food. Someone got a fast food sandwich. They put it in a bag, paper bag, and let it sit for like years. And then they pulled it out, and it looked the exact same from day one. It was just beautiful, right? You would have picked it up and eaten it if you didn't know better. And so now, did I cross-check the integrity of that video? No, but it just goes to show there's so much put in our food that keeps it preserved in a different way than even 20 years ago, 50 years ago. The body burden, it takes on a lot.
Yeah. Now, to give kind of perspective here about genetically modified foods, is the reason why that was done was to have more yield of crop. So let's say a farmer plants like 80 acres of wheat. If a storm comes in, if there's, like early snow, flood, something like that, they may only get like 20 acres of that out of the 80. So then therefore that farmer is out money. Well, if you genetically modify some of it to be resistant against some of this stuff, then maybe some of the weather is only going to destroy 20 acres, but that still yields them 60 acres. So genetically modified foods was basically there to help increase the yield that's needed for output in order for to be able to feed everyone, I guess, across the world. And I guess what we're starting to figure out now is that it's not as healthy as what we thought it was going to be. So,
And you think that's an assault on our bodies?
Yeah. So sometimes for some people, it can be the assault on the body. So I kind of, not to, belittle the analogy, but, the canary in the coal mine, some of us are the sensitive ones and our bodies can't, take all the chemicals and stuff like that, which can, basically create or not possibly put people in that situation, where it's like they have the Hashimoto's, but there's no family history of it. So then that's when we go into their own history. What have you been exposed to? Any stressors in your life? Do you work, like in a facility that has all these chemicals and stuff like that? Are you exposed to a whole bunch of electrical, activity and all that other stuff that may possibly be part of causing Hashimoto's? And then sometimes we have no idea.
I was going to say, in this world that we live, how do you even narrow that down? Because we're constantly being bombarded with toxins, EMFs, right? You walk out the door and you have pesticides. So from every angle, what we sleep on isn't always the healthiest. And this isn't always known. We don't knowingly ask for these things, but how do you tease out what could be the core issue when we live in a toxic world?
A lot of it comes down to not only the testing, but also listening to the patient, seeing what their history is. What have they been, what type of job do they have? What have they been eating? It's like, where do they hang out? A lot of the times, what is their job? So, a lot of times that can help us kind of narrow down like where we need to look and how we can actually find something to be able to treat it to, basically put it into remission. So, because a lot of times we can put the Hashimoto's in remission, but, a stressor or something like that can actually make it, flare up again. So because Hashimoto's is considered an autoimmune disease.
So I have a personal question that I think many people can relate to. Hashimoto's is a diagnosis. I didn't realize how tired I was until I got put on thyroid. So I got put on thyroid and it was like, whoa, I wake up in the mornings and I am up. Like, this is new. This is a new feeling. I always thought I had good energy. And then I get put on thyroid and I think, no, I didn't, right? I could tell my body was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, year over year, we just up the dose a little bit, up the dose. And it's not until I've done this podcast that I think I could go into remission. There's a ton of hope for me. Why are we sitting talking about hope for everyone else when I haven't found the root cause yet? Do you often find people that have my story where it's just like, okay, well, you're pregnant, you're having a baby, let's up your dose. Your thyroid needs help. Let's up your dose again. You're nursing, whatever that is, until you hit this ceiling and there's nowhere else to go, but you haven't actually found the root cause. Do you find that as a common scenario for people who come to you and they have Hashimoto's, they've lived with it for years, but they've never really gotten to that core?
Yes. And we find that. So, and it's just, yeah. And so we kind of go through and say, all right, it's like, let's dig a little deeper. Let's kind of see what's going on. And yeah, so I've seen that a lot where they're just like, yeah, my thyroid isn't exactly regulated. We're having to either like keep switching it up, because it only works for a few months and now it's not. So we have to switch it up to something else. Or yeah, we just have to just keep bumping it up, because you keep saying that you're tired. And then, yeah, but even looking at your labs. So yeah, exactly.
So guys out there, I just want to say this is my personal story, but I've talked to so many people who have a similar one. And I live in a family who specializes in UV and ozone. And I still was naive to the fact that I can heal, truly heal. I want to challenge everyone out there that let's not stop in our pursuit for health, right? Even if day to day you feel pretty good, let's not stop. Keep digging, keep finding it. And that will kind of bring us to our next section of How are you treating these people? You said Hashimoto's, ozone, right? That's where we're going to talk.
Yes.
So I assume we're heading that direction. What tools are you providing for people who come to you? You tease out Hashimoto's, they have a thyroid condition, autoimmune thyroiditis. Where do we go?
Yeah. So from here, it's looking at lifestyle changes. One of them, of course, is, how they look at stress. The other one, of course, is food. And then how do we bring the inflammation down? Why, it's like, since we don't really understand the source of why the body is attacking self, what can we do to end up bringing that down? And so ozone is absolutely a great way to be able to bring that inflammation down. There's the ozone. When we do the autoheme ozone, we pull blood out, we infuse it with ozone, we stick it in an IV bag, and then we insert it back into the person via IV. And it has they've shown this in Russia and in Europe for over 70 years. The anti-inflammatory aspects of it are just phenomenal, because anyone who has Hashimoto's knows that there's Hashimoto eye. So you can have eye pain, which then creates headaches. You have joint aches and pains to go along with it. You've got gut issues that can happen from all this. So yeah, it's just like, and so this is something so simple to do that we can actually put people in remission with ozone. So it, because of that anti-inflammatory effect that we've got. And then sometimes we can take the ozone and combine it with the UV light. And, you can purify the blood that way, and being able to just, make the anti-inflammatory aspects just, even better, when we are able to infuse that back in. Now, I do know that there are some people for religious beliefs that when blood's taken out, they're saying, it can't be put back in. So, there's also like the Russian method of ozone. It takes a little bit more time, where we're basically are ozonating, like saline water IV and putting it in. So, there's many different ways for us to be able to ozonate in order to be able to help people bring the inflammatory process down for them. And I have seen it where we have done the befores with the TPO, and then after 10 treatments, it's like it's down. We almost have it down to normal. So sometimes people have to come in for maintenance, but that's okay, because we are actually able to stabilize that. So that way we're not having to keep adjusting your thyroid medication. We don't have, and you don't have to come in every 3 months and say, how come this isn't working? It actually helps stabilize, the inflammatory response, where we can stabilize the thyroid.
I think most conventional minded people would say ozone. And I know we've talked about it on this podcast. And so I think a lot of the listeners are familiar, but give a quick, it's excited oxygen, but like, what is ozone to instill confidence in its safety and its efficacy profile?
Yeah. So I know a lot of people, like back 20 years ago, when they're just like, oh my gosh, our ozone layer is being depleted.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So we do have ozone, like in the atmosphere. Yes, it is to, help protect us from all the, like space radiation and stuff like that. But what they have found through research that's been over 100 years is that creating ozone, which is O3, it's 3 oxygens, actually are very health benefits to it. So, of course, you don't want to like breathe it in or anything like that. But if you do it intravenously and you have the right amounts, which means that you need to be a physician or a nurse or someone medically trained to do it. Don't try and do this on your own. Oh yeah, let me just buy an ozone machine and do it myself. No, it's through all that is when we found that it has all these benefits to it of its antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, candida. It has all these wonderful benefits to it. And, so thank goodness for all the research that we've had that's been there for a while for us to be able to find this out. Because sometimes it just kind of gets down to, well, how come, it's like everything that we're trying to do isn't working. So someone somewhere started over 100 years ago, said, all right, well, let's try this. And hey, this seems to work. So yeah. And so someone read about it somewhere about the benefits and started it. Thank goodness for that.
I like what you said about a physician, a nurse, someone trained, because that's accessible. No matter where you live, that's accessible. So I do want to encourage people, reach out, right? Reach out to us, The Healing Reset, and we can give you, it's info@thehealingreset.com. We can give you a practitioner, a list of practitioners in your area that can provide this service Dr. Burns is talking about to heal your thyroid and to help give you a good start. Now, you had mentioned 10 treatments, and that was one inquiry that I was wondering, what's the typical? Does someone start feeling the benefit after 1 to 2, or is there a standard, like you're going to get 10 treatments and then we're going to retest you? What's your protocol?
So my protocol is what I've noticed is that people usually start feeling the benefits of it, like at the 5th, treatment that we do. And we usually say a minimum of 10, because here again, it all depends upon like how high the TPO is and how much inflammation someone has.
Give me a real scale. What's the highest you've seen? And where do you start treatment? Like what, let's say 40 to 400. What does that look like?
So, so I've had people who were like more than 1,300 on their TPO.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so we started them out with the 10 treatments. And then we were able to bring, after the 10 treatments, we were able to bring it down to probably about like 300.
Okay.
But then after that, they're coming in like once a month now for it, like for maintenance. Someone who has a TPO of about like 34 to say like about 100, we could probably do about like 5 treatments on them. And then usually it ends up bringing it back down. And then they usually come in for maintenance about like every 3 to 6 months. So, it's going to vary on per person, but, the typical is about 10 treatments just to kind of start.
If someone out there is just saying, I'm on thyroid medicine, it's managed, I'm fine. Give that person just some hope of like, yeah, you are managed, but you want to heal, obviously, but give some wisdom to that person of there is hope. I've seen hope.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You don't have to manage. I think through life's experiences, a lot of times we think, as long as I can manage, then I'm doing good. Not realizing that we can actually empower ourselves by being balanced. You can be more empowered being balanced than you can managing.
Yeah, I just think, to your point, it's layered in the messaging right now that you have a diagnosis, let's manage your symptoms. And that is what we think of when we think of, okay, we're now going to live with this chronic illness, but I can manage it through modern day medicine. And per your point earlier on, there is a place for medicine. This isn't an anti-medicine podcast. This is, hey, we can heal you. Let's find the best route. But I love that message of dig deeper, go further, come into balance. As you said, the body can do beautiful things. And you've seen it, or else you went beyond this.
Yeah, exactly. So one of my first patients that I had, it's like this poor girl, she was a trainer and a health coach. And of course, like as a personal trainer, you have to have a certain body type in order to, have people there. And she was just like, I can't do anything. I'm on my thyroid medication. I'm trying to inspire others, but I cannot inspire myself. What's going on? So we ended up digging deeper for her and found that her TPO was at like 1,100. Ooh. And I'm like, did you know that you had Hashimoto's? And she's all, no, I didn't know that. So she was about ready to quit being a personal trainer and just be a health coach for people, because she says, I can't do this because of the way my body is. And so we were able to get her on the Ozone, and she has lost weight. And the inflammatory process is down. She comes in now for maintenance about every 3 months for it, but she can now continue being a personal trainer, because we've actually been able to bring that inflammatory state down. We have her thyroid medication where it needs to be at. We educated her on maybe certain foods that she was having that, was causing an inflammatory response. And after that, she's doing great. She is now inspiring others as a health coach and a personal trainer. So,
I love that. Now, alongside of oxygen in a story like that, do you recommend any sort of detox, just knowing the toxic bucket we do live in for your everyday patients?
Yeah. Unfortunately, even like with the liver, there's two phases of detoxification. And if one can't keep up with the other, of course, it drags, the thyroid down and it makes your fatigue worse. It makes, it's like all your hypothyroid symptoms worse. So yeah, everyone being on just like a simple detox, because we all have to work, because we all have stuff that we need to do. Some people can't really get into like a deep detox where sometimes like emotions come up, right? So it's like sometimes when you detox, there's irritability. They're like, I can't be around anybody. So sometimes we do a little longer detox than what's necessary because it's a more mild one. So that way people can still function in society and not be so irritated so quickly. And so with something that wasn't very important.
Isn't that interesting how emotions and our spirit is so intertwined with our physical health? Like sometimes you're detoxing from actual emotional states that have happened.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So what we have found spiritually is that and energetic wise, our body holds on to memory and emotions. And sometimes when we're trying to detox or even try and bring the body back into balance, a lot of emotional release does happen. It could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be anxiety, as we go through that. And as it's releasing it, I like to call it spiritual vomiting. Our spirit is really just trying to get rid of all this stuff that we stored that we thought that we needed to store, but didn't need to. And so, so it takes a little bit of time as you fight with yourself to realize that you're going to be okay at the end of, like releasing all that emotion.
I love that. I love that. I guess you've answered and given me hope. So you've answered my questions and also given me hope. So I just want to say thank you personally. And again, just our audience out there, guys, dig deeper. If you know someone on thyroid medication and they're okay being managed and they're open for the conversation, obviously we don't need to just input our advice on people's lives, right? But at any opportunity, share a podcast. Share this hope that there is something that we can explore to bring our bodies back into balance. But we always like to end the show just 3 things someone can walk away with today for better health. So that doesn't have to be thyroid specific, but what are 3 things a listener can, shut their podcast down and say, I'm going to change these things in my life this minute?
One of them is, I think it's a big one, is negative mindset. Mm-hmm. We all seem to go to the negative mindset first, and being able to change that by saying, well, is this negative thought true? Is it 100% true? Well, how would I feel if it's not 100% true? And I say, well, I can feel joy and peaceful. Okay, well, is it 100% true? You can feel joy and peaceful. That's one thing that I want everyone to be able to walk away with, is that it shouldn't matter what circumstance you're in. You can empower yourself to move forward and to move out of it because you're more courageous than what you think you are.
I love that. Say that again for listeners out there. Just can you say that again for the listeners out there? Because that was such a huge moment.
Yes, we are more courageous than what we think we are. We can move forward in any direction that we want. It's up to us where we want to move forward to. We may think it's hard. We may think it's scary because we have either been conditioned to think that that we can't be empowered. We may have had instances where, scary instances where our brain is now saying, we're protecting ourselves. But a lot of times that's not healthy for us. And everyone can be empowered, can move forward, and can find the balance in their life or whatever it is that they're reaching for, whatever their goal is, they can achieve because they are more powerful than how they feel that they are.
I love that. Now, thing number 2. So number 1, change your mindset, right? Let's start thinking the positive or asking ourselves, per your point, like, is this a rational thought? Can I get peace? Can I get joy by switching my mind? All right. What's number 2?
Number 2, it is never too late to start. I have people that are just like, no, I'm in my 60s. It's too late for me to start, having a healthy eating habit or, it's like, or trying something new. It's never too late to try something new. And remember that when you're doing something new, you will fail. That failure is a learning opportunity, not a failure. Remember, it took Macy's department store 7 times before they got it right. So, it's like, and they kept trying. So keep trying, keep learning.
Number 3.
Oh my gosh, number 3 is everyone is going through something. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Don't beat yourself up. If your intent was to do something good, don't beat yourself up because it didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to be. It's like, we're not computers. It took a human to program a computer. So stop believing you're a computer. You have emotions. It's okay to have them. It's okay to feel them.
And then per your previous comment, feel okay letting it go, right?
Yeah.
Processing it, moving through it, doing that in a healthy way, but then letting it go, not keeping that negativity wrapped up in the energetics of your body.
Yeah, exactly. So we are all walking miracles. So believe it.
Yeah. And after just experiencing my second birth, it's a true miracle. There's so many people out there that can testify to that, but we're walking miracles. And thank you for that hope. Thank you for just the positivity. It's a breath of fresh air. We try to bring that on this podcast as far as the hope, but just having someone say, no, not fix your brain, right? It's not that easy, but let's be intentional. Let's start treating people with kindness, treating ourselves with kindness first.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, your commitment to people like me with Hashimoto's. And frankly, you treat all sorts of conditions. So I just want to thank you for your service and your work in recognizing that the body is a whole system, not just a set of symptoms. And for listeners out there, reach out to us, info@thehealingreset.com. We can give you a list of practitioners just like Dr. Burns who can help address your specific condition right now because you're not trapped in it. It's not a life sentence. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.